Welcome back to the Latam MedTech Leaders Podcast. Today, our guest is Gerardo Noriega. Hey, Gerardo, it's great to have you here in the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Julio. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to be part of your podcast. Thank you so much for the kind invitation.
Sure, my pleasure. All right, listeners, Gerardo is a C-level executive, serial entrepreneur, inventor, and scholar in the medical device industry. He founded 5 medical device companies and is a consultant to over 50 medical device companies in the Silicon Valley area. He is an advisory board member of the Santa Clara University, SCU, BioE, the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, Catalyst Program, the UCSF Surgical Consortium, and the Simon Fraser University, Bioengineering Innovation Boulevard. I hope I said all these right. He's also an adjunct professor at the SCU Graduate School of Bioengineering. Gerardo has a BS in Industrial and Systems Engineering from the San Jose State University. So Gerardo, I'm really pleased to have you here in the show. I really look forward to our conversation today. I'm quite impressed with your experience doing clinical research with innovative medical devices in Latin America. So let's get started. So first,
great.
Could you please tell listeners about your journey to Latin America? How is it that you got involved in the region?
Well, Julio, I've been in the industry for over 30 years, all in medical devices. Like most of the engineers that graduate from the Silicon Valley area, we typically end up in high tech. In my case, I started in telecommunications, fiber optics technology, very early on in my career. But very soon, the company decided to stop the work with fiber optics. And we were the only company in the Silicon Valley at the time. I just simply couldn't believe it that they were doing such a thing. And they asked me to move to LA, and I said, no, I'm not. So I decided to join a medical company. And since then, I haven't started, but I always, in my heart, I knew there was a huge benefit for most of early stage companies to do studies in Latin America all along, because I knew the quality of the physicians, the need for the society of new therapies, and how well received would be someone bilingual that understood the society and the details that are useful for clinical studies. And sure enough, I executed my plan accordingly.
All right. But you're from Peru, right?
Yeah, I came to the U.S., to the San Francisco Bay Area in 1977 from Lima, and I studied engineering in San Jose State University.
Fantastic. So you have a personal link to Latin America, which is even better for what you were doing with clinical research, because you are able to understand the local culture and the language, of course, and it makes things a lot easier. All right.
Yeah, a lot. Definitely, Julio. Definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the trends that you see happening in Latin America, Gerardo. What epidemiological, economic, or social, political trends you see happening in Latin America that are relevant to our discussion today?
Well, it's quite evident that Latin America needs simpler, more effective type of therapies, also more affordable. It's needless to say, the high end, like heart transplants and those type of things, probably are a little bit on the hard to reach for most of the Latin American society. But there are new therapies that are more affordable for people that need more expensive type of therapies, such as robotic surgery and so on and so forth. So the need is huge to improve the medical care at affordable prices. So that's something always in my mind when I try to assess whether we should go to Latin America or somewhere else for the initial validation of our technologies.
Makes sense. All right. Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about what's your overall perception of the region as a place to conduct clinical research or to commercialize medical technologies?
Well, I found through my travels in different countries in South America that the physicians are very, very receptive and always very inquisitive. And to find someone that is bilingual in which they can express, um, their what they're trying to accomplish or the needs is huge. Like when I was in Brazil, I was in the OR, and I was able to communicate in Portuguese with the nurses, the physicians, the assistants, even with the patients sometimes. So that was huge because I could say, "How are you feeling? What do you think of the therapy?" Right after. And with the physicians, they didn't have to translate, so I became part of the team. So I suggest for companies that are trying to do studies to bring someone that is bilingual but also knowledgeable on the clinical aspects, because you don't need a translator. You need someone that is able and skilled to talk to the physicians and the team. Then what happens, you get first-hand information from them. There is no translation, nothing. You just, this is it. And that's the best way to see how well your technology is performing.
All right. Yeah.
In general, all the physicians that I found in every country that I have been to, they have been very receptive to new therapies.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's get a little bit more into the practical experience. Now that you mentioned countries, what specific countries you've been involved in trials in Latin America?
Well, I used to do a lot of studies in Venezuela when the situation it wasn't as bad. I'm talking about the year 2000, almost 20 years ago. For about, I would say 5 to 6 years, I did a lot of studies there. And I found that the physicians in Venezuela were really engaged and they were very knowledgeable on the latest therapies. In fact, at most of the cardiovascular meetings that I used to attend, the largest groups worldwide were physicians from Venezuela.
Really? Wow.
Obviously.
What's that? I mean,
yeah, worldwide. I'm not even talking about, the US obviously were the majority, but the second, Venezuela, and then Asian countries after that.
That's really impressive.
Even more than Brazil.
Huh. Amazing.
So most of the physicians really were up to par with the latest technology, and they knew what I was talking about. So that was very helpful when I went there, and they were very, very receptive.
Okay.
Also, the fact that I've done studies in Brazil at Dante Pazanese, which is the #1 center in Sao Paulo for Brazil, and Albert Einstein. So again, the fact that I was able to communicate with the staff, and they really, I became part of their group. So I didn't need anybody to tell me and get lost in the translation. And I was able to communicate carefully with my engineering staff because I was the only one that was bilingual. So then I've done a lot of work in Argentina at the center of Farabollo Institute of Cardiovascular Institute also, and that was an incredible experience there too. Also in Colombia with you, Julio.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to, and I really want to go to Colombia. First of all, the proximity is incredible for us. It's very practical, but also the fact that the physicians that I've spoken to have been very receptive to new technology and new therapies, and always inquisitive as to why, what I bring fits in their society needs.
Okay, you also did some work
countries.
Paraguay, right?
Yeah, I spoke with some physicians in Chile and Peru, in Ecuador, also Mexico, definitely. I did a lot of work in Mexico as well. Mexico City, I talked to many physicians there, with the advisory board, the clinics, and so on and so forth. So pretty well versed what the needs are. But in general, commonly, all the physicians were really skilled and very perceptive
Okay.
and willing to adopt new therapies.
Okay. And can we talk about Paraguay? Why is Paraguay a place where a lot of companies in the Silicon Valley area go to do their early feasibility trials?
Well, first of all, Dr. Ebner have done an great job promoting, and he's a very skilled surgeon. So many of the cardiovascular companies know him. So he personally oversees the study. So it's not like he's just a connection. He actually gets involved. So companies feel very comfortable that he's able to perform the surgeries or the procedures himself. So you get firsthand feedback.
Okay.
So that's one reason. Although logistically, that was the biggest complaint. It was kind of far to go to Paraguay. You had to go to Brazil first and then take another plane. That was an issue. But in general, most companies will very satisfied with the clinical outcome. Also, the fact that the requirements to get into the country were very, accessible to companies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's one of the hurdles that I found, and the biggest stopper, I would say, the level of bureaucracy that you have to endure to get to your study. And sometimes companies get antsy and say, forget it, we'll go somewhere else. And if that hurdle could be overcome, I think it could, because other countries have done it in the Eastern blocs.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to Slovenia. I mean, no one in the past used to go to Slovenia or Georgia.
Okay.
Even Prague.
Czechoslovakia.
I don't recall it. These are new countries that companies are going to, and then the reason is because the hurdles to overcome from the administrative point of view are nominal to none.
Wow.
I heard, for instance, Malaysia, if you want to go to Malaysia, all you need is ethics committee approval.
That's the same way in New Zealand, right?
In New Zealand, is some of it, but still, you need to have the ethics committee approve your protocol, and then the country authorities, giving the clinical feedback from the committee, they approve it, which makes sense. In most countries, actually the opposite. The administrators, and you cannot move unless the clinical is afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't really make sense, because really this is a clinical concept.
Yeah.
So if you can have the feedback from the clinicians first, then the administrators can ask the right questions to the companies.
So a follow-up question to what you're referring to, Gerardo, is what country or countries in Latin America are at the forefront of being receptive to facilitating medical device companies from the US or Europe doing trials in their territories?
Well, Brazil used to be the one, but the amount of administrative due diligence that you have to go to is basically have turned off just about every company that I've spoken with. So nobody goes to Brazil anymore. For commercialization, obviously.
Yeah, that's another story.
Because once you get FDA approval, they adopt that and they allow you to. But by then, you have other markets competing for your products, especially in Europe, that basically they have more money to pay for your products. So salespeople, they tend to focus that, and we become secondary. We, meaning Latin America, becomes a secondary or complementary market. So you focus European markets, Asian markets, and then Latin America. There's no need to do that, quite frankly, because the need is huge. So that's, if we can overcome the administrative hurdles, like in Mexico, it's just right across, for us, it's 1 hour flight, from to go to Mexico City, but it takes 6 to 8 months to get response. It can be a year before you.
Yeah, a startup company cannot wait.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No, you cannot wait because we don't have revenues. All we have is expenses. So we need feedback that adds, makes our investors more at ease with the level of risks that they have taken investing in a company that is new.
Okay. So Brazil used to be a great place. Not anymore. Mexico.
Not anymore.
Not anymore either. What countries are
Colombia?
The forefront?
Colombia definitely is in the forefront of everybody.
Okay.
From the people that I've spoken with, it is, although I must say, Julio, the administrative hurdles is still, I think, a big stopper,
obstacle.
I would say.
Yeah, showstopper.
Yeah, the biggest obstacle for getting there. But from the technical point of view, I heard that, and I can verify this for my own company, the data, the profile of the patients is better than anywhere else I've seen.
Yeah.
So in Colombia, you can identify very quickly where you want to do your clinical studies because, the population, the data on the potential patients exists. And you have access to that, unlike other countries in Latin America, that they have some information, but not to the level that Colombia does.
Yeah, this may sound like a commercial because I'm Colombian. I focus my efforts in Colombia, but objectively speaking, Colombia, to my understanding, is the best country in Latin America in gathering data from the healthcare system. In other words, the Ministry of Health does the best job in Latin America at capturing every patient encounter, every patient treatment that is happening in the system. And it's a large country of 50 million people, and the database called CISPRO is the most complete database in the whole region of Latin America. And that helps companies identify patient cohorts or subsets that they need. And in terms
Definitely.
of the quality of the data, that's another great point, Gerardo. There's something in Colombia that I don't know if it happens in other countries. I've never heard about something similar before. But in 2008, the Ministry of Health in Colombia, probably because of the pressure from Big Pharma that was doing trials in Colombia a lot, wanted to increase the level of sophistication and the level of rigorosity on gathering the data, the clinical data that they needed. So they implemented a certification process following ICH GCP guidelines, where you don't have to be not only certified at the personal level as an investigator and also as a part of the staff that is participating in the trial, but also at the institutional level. You have to be certified, and it's a very long and rigorous certification process that takes about a year, and it's expensive. So only fairly decent and sophisticated healthcare institutions can have these certifications. So that ensures that you have quality data. So, yeah. All right. So moving along here, what about choosing investigators in Latin America? What would be the process that a company will have to go through to find an investigator in Colombia or any other country where they want to do their trials? What's been your experience?
Typically, when I go to the cardiology meetings or neurology meetings or any kind of medical meeting that I'm interested, I typically like to see what is the profile of the attendees, and then I see which countries from Latin America are attending. And then when I hear somebody speaking, the language, I approach them and I ask them where are they from and what is their background, and I can read in the badge if they are, salespeople or physicians. So I approach them and I start to learn, why are they there? Typically, the ones that attend the meetings are the most well-known physicians in Latin America. So I know that I'm talking to the people that are really interested in new technologies. So that's my first step, more of a personal one-to-one connection. And that's a method that I've used for years. but perhaps not the most effective, because only the locals know which centers are more prominent than others. Not that are better than others, but the ones that the physicians that are more interested in new approaches are, they can identify that for me. So in the past, it was more of one-to-one and personal connections or referrals. The doctors in Venezuela that I used to work with, they refer me to the ones in Colombia. So I make that connection and I talk to them. But they don't know the hurdles, the ministerial hurdles that I have to go through. So there's a gap there. And now, because of your company, Julio, that gap has been minimized or reduced to the level that companies such as mine will find very, very beneficial. So that is really a huge, huge hurdle that we have to overcome every time we go to a new country. Even though I speak the language, even though I know the doctor, but the physicians do not know the administrative hurdles. They refer, call Anvisa, call Anvima, call Cofepris, so call them. Give me that will never. First of all, who am I going to call?
Exactly. All right, so you bring up a good point. Will you use a contract research organization in Latin America for a clinical trial, a CRO?
Yeah. Initially, in the past, I used to bring my own team, but then the team have to find somebody local to interface. So that worked because I speak the language and because I was able to connect directly with the administrators. But that's not really the case in every single company. In fact, most of them probably are not. So you need someone that knows the local procedures, the local connections, and how to walk through. So going forward, because there were not companies such as yours operating in the past. If there were very few or very small or not sophisticated enough. So more of an administrator handler. And what we need is a real organization with clinical structure that says, don't worry about, we'll do the follow-up. We know the culture. We know how to work with the physician. We guard your data. We will guard it like you would in the other countries. And that's huge for a company because really the data is all we have. So we need someone that recognizes the importance of gathering the follow-up data. How do you find the people? Because that's a hurdle. I mean, even here, when you tell the patient come back, you have to call them and it's kind of a stay on top of it.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point. Very good point. In the past, what I've seen, and what I still see, even in Colombia and other countries, is individuals. I mean, you may have a consultant here and there in Peru, in Colombia, in Chile, that can kind of help you navigate the waters of the administrative hurdles, as you mentioned. But it's just one person. It's a solo show without any structure, without any formal organizational entity. It doesn't generate much trust versus having a company that has a long history of helping medical device companies do trials in Latin America. I think that model is kind of unique in Latin America, having a third party be the facilitator of the whole process for a US company or European company to enter these markets for clinical research. The other question that I had, Gerardo, is about your plans. You mentioned that you are engaged in a company right now. You are the CEO. That wasn't in your bio, but could you please explain to listeners what you're doing now, what your plans are in terms of clinical research in Latin America?
Sure. In 1999, I joined forces with a very well-known entrepreneur physician, Dr. Al Chin, and we're both a part of the UCSF catalyst program where we assess novel technologies in different fields. So we got to know each other, and we like our style of running the business. And he's a physician, which is of tremendous value for early on startup. So we decided to join forces, and in January this year, actually in December 2019, we were able to receive our first funding from investors. And in January 1st, we opened our facility, and here we are 6 months later, and we have animal data showing our technique for congestive heart failure, supporting the left ventricle to provide an improved hemodynamic flow into the human anatomy works.
Okay.
I mean, in 6 months, I was able to build an incredible team of people, software, hardware, catheter-based type of engineers. And we are. We're ready to do more studies. So hopefully this time next year, we'll be looking into our first in human. I would say probably October timeframe next year.
Okay.
Or November timeframe next year. God willing, we'll be doing our first studies in humans. But I've done this enough times to know the path and not to take shortcuts. Sure. We need to make sure that we have safety first and efficacy next. So always looking after the safety aspect of your technology, because efficacy, we don't know. I mean, it's an unknown. This is new. But safety, we can prevent. When the physician opens the device, it better work.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Okay.
So once you have that, you need a good center, and be very careful and very selective with the type of patients that you will be treating. So that's what I meant by the data provided by Colombia authorities, Ministry of Health, and so on and so forth is crucial, because you can identify your first patient, which is extremely, extremely important when you bring a new therapy, regardless what it is, whether it's dentistry, ophthalmics, urology, gynecology, cardio, neuro, whatever, robotics or non-robotics. It's very important, that data. So
you're looking at
then
Colombia.
Once you have once you identify the pool of patients, then you need to find the right operator.
Investigator.
That is willing to also communicate with the physician from the US. So the language barrier, not necessarily, because medicine uses typically the same terms, kind of Latin-based names. So everybody knows, and they get it because you look at the fluoro and they know exactly what you're looking for. So, but the language helps, definitely. If the doctor is bilingual, doesn't have to be totally fluent, but he has to be able to communicate with the US physicians. That is of tremendous value too. So I believe from the doctors that I met in the past, Colombia has a very good, pool of physicians that are bilingual and willing to, work with us.
Yeah. And it's
so
a country.
That's what I was, also working with you clearly. I mean, that what am I looking for? What is my technology all about? So you can identify, because you know the local physician better than I do.
Yeah. I
have some friends but the friend can refer me to a friend, and then it's kind of like the broken phone. You start with a friend, at the end it's totally distorted. You know exactly who are you dealing with.
Yeah.
So, and that's of huge, huge value.
Yeah, and the other topic.
And also, Julio,
yes, go ahead.
I like when I went to Brazil, it was more of a personal connection.
Okay.
The CRO was introduced by the physician to us.
Okay.
So I did not have a connection with the CRO, which is not your case.
Yeah.
Because in this case, you are the CRO and you handle the administrative stuff for the company.
Yes.
And so in my case, I was a bit disconnected, my studies in Brazil, because I did not know anybody in the CRO. So I had to do some homework.
Have you found that a lot of these individuals, consultants that you find in these countries, and also local CROs are not really Americanized. In other words, they may not speak the language well enough, or they may not really understand the way to do business in the US. In my experience, that has happened to me. You may find a consultant in Colombia, for example, or in Peru, or in Chile, but his or her English is broken. And when you are about to sign a contract, they don't understand the contract, they don't understand the legal terminology, they don't understand the American way of doing business. And that's sometimes there's a disconnect there with local CROs.
They're more like an expediter. The expediter, you give them the documents and they know where to take it for the stamp.
Yeah,
Their job is done. And then they give you the paper with the stamp.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You don't know what's happening in the background.
No need to ask either, because you will say no way. All I want to see the paper. Can I move forward with this paper? Yeah, you can take it to the ethics committee, and that's it. And then you go to the ethics committee with the papers. Okay, great. Now let's talk. And then what? Who is going to do I have a friend, or the nurse is part-time. The follow-up, or do you need to bring your own? If you bring your own and it's not bilingual, how is this person going to communicate? So, better organization that is professional and also knows the American way of doing business. Which is not really the American way, it's the proper way to conduct clinical study. But, we kind of created this format that many countries follow. No, don't take me wrong. If you go to China, it's probably the same, Okay. It's not easy to go and conduct a study in China, and they have more than 1 billion people. I mean, you will find the right population for your medical technology.
And you know what? I think that, and this may sound like a commercial, but I think it's very relevant to discuss here. We are a US-based entity, and I've been living in the US for over 25 years, and that in itself generates so much trust. Because when I get on a call with an American company, with the CEO of a medical device company from San Francisco, for example, I mean, I can speak fairly decent American English. I can use the same words that he uses. I write the same type of emails that he writes. I am a US-based entity. If there is, God forbid, any problem or something, he can take me to court in the US. So he feels comfortable doing business with a US entity, with the same contract, with the same language, with the same terms. So with the Florida law in my case, or Nevada law, if it was a company from Nevada. So it makes things a lot easier versus sending or wiring money to Colombia or Peru or Chile to somebody who you don't really know what they're going to do, if they're going to follow through with what they promised they were going to do.
Payment.
With the payment, exactly.
You're right. There was an issue when I did studies in Brazil. Where do we wire the money?
Wow.
And in Venezuela too. How do we know you're gonna get paid? Does it go to the personal account of the physician, or how do we pay? And then the physician have to pay the group, and that was always a challenge.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, Brazil, it was kind of the top place to do studies, but the hurdles have become worse and worse every year. They tried to revamp it, but I don't know why there are so many layers. But the same is in Peru too.
Okay. All right.
Argentina, you would think, oh wow, a lot of people go there, but the same. The hurdles to overcome are astronomical. And that turns you off right there. In Paraguay, that's why people go there, because the hurdles are nominal to none.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about Paraguay, because it's really a country that is kind of intriguing to me, and the work of Dr. Ebner is phenomenal. I mean, he's being able to draw attention to such a small country, with the quality of his work. And also, he's a U.S. trained physician. He trained at the University of Miami, if I understand correctly. And there's also some limitations. I mean, the population of the country is small. He's just a cardiovascular surgeon or interventional cardiologist. I'm not so sure, but he focuses in cardiology. So if you are a medical device company in another therapeutic area, Paraguay may not be the right place. Am I correct or not?
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
I think they might, but the level of skill of the physician might not suit your need.
Exactly.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
But Ebner is known for the cardio, peripheral vasculature, and so on and so forth. But if you go to neuro, he might recommend a friend. I never heard of a company outside of that space.
Okay.
Although I approached him once on a urology company, but he was not like totally into it because it's not his field.
Yeah, it's not his field. Exactly. He doesn't feel comfortable. Yeah.
Then I went. I did studies in Venezuela when I could go there, and it was great. I mean, we did very well. We treated 7 patients on that trip, and it was very successful.
Yeah, what I've seen, Gerardo, is that some companies go to Paraguay. They do 3, 4, 5 patients, just proof of concept, real quickly, without many administrative hurdles. Sometimes they even bring the devices in their personal luggage, in their computer bag, and they show that the device actually works in humans, at least on 5 patients. And then they move into a larger country on a more structured, more organized trial, like Colombia or Chile or Mexico. I mean, have you seen that as well?
But even those studies are conducted with proper protocols.
Okay.
Every company, because it's costly, you want to capture the data the best way you can. Even though the support might not be in the local entities, companies want to have this information properly recorded for quality issues, also for ethical reasons. Yeah. In addition, if the FDA inquires, where did you do your studies? Not that they have any oversight what's going on in Paraguay, but they do have oversight over companies in the US.
Yes. Okay.
So you better have your document and your validation documentation in place.
Agree.
You could be questioned.
Yeah, that's from the ethical standpoint, right?
And also from the legal, because from the US point of view, you are a US company exporting a product outside of the US that is not approved in the US. So
great point. Yeah, great point.
You have to be extremely careful. And also, it's good business practice to have your documentation properly kept.
Yeah.
Because we are in the business of documentation too.
Agree. Good point. All right. So we're approaching the end of the show, Gerardo. A couple more questions. One is about Latin America and its people, its culture, the way to do business in Latin America. Is it a fun place to you? I mean, do you enjoy doing business in Latin America and dealing with Colombians, Peruvians, Chileans? What do you think about that?
I do. One thing that I noticed that is I kind of have to learn the terms. Like, I'm working on congestive heart failure, and that is insuficiencia cardíaca. So if you try to translate it, it doesn't make any sense. So I need to know the medical terms used locally because each country might call it, most of them probably medical terms are the same, but the translation might be different. So that's one thing that I notice I need to brush up a little bit, but I'm very, very in tune. It doesn't take me too long to figure out what is the right terminology.
Sure.
So I found that an interesting aspect of the study. But other than that, I love the way the physicians, they're so receptive to new approaches and willing to try something new for the benefit of the patient. and also making sure that they are very also very passionate about their patients because they're a lot closer.
Yeah.
And they have more time to talk to the patient, unlike the US, in which the doctor is, they talk to you for 15 minutes. What's going on? Okay, this is what's going on.
That's a great point.
So there, the physicians, how is your husband doing? It's a little bit of a warm-up session before they talk.
Yeah.
So tell me, how can I help you?
Yeah.
So there's the warm-up section, which is about 5 to 10 minutes, personal interacting. And they say, oh, doctor, every time I walk or I get up, my back hurts. Oh, let me take a look and let me check your heart. And then from there, so the doctor could spend, 30 to 45 minutes with you before, he issues a statement. Yeah. What's next? Here in 15, 20 minutes, here, go and do your blood test. I'll call you when the results.
Does that help with recruitment?
See you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, so
does that
here,
help with
the doctor.
With recruitment?
Here, the doctor in Latin America, the doctor knows the patient a lot closer. So that helps with the recruitment because you know the history of which are the best patients for your therapy. Yeah. So when I went to do the studies on the prostate in Venezuela, in a week we were able to recruit 7 patients.
Wow.
That they were able to meet our inclusion-exclusion criteria. And now the question was, and this is a challenge, the follow-up. How do you bring them back to see how are they doing? And the first week probably is okay, but after a month, the situation gets a lot harder. And 90 days, if they come back and see the physician, maybe you're able to grab a little bit of the follow-up information. So a CRO will facilitate such a
good point. Very good point. Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes you have to bring them from another town close to the hospital, half an hour or an hour away. So you have to call an Uber or a taxi cab to do whatever it takes to bring the patient back. Sometimes they cannot
bring it back.
Sometimes they cannot even come back to the hospital because they don't have money for the bus or for lunch. Or they need somebody who can come with them, and they don't have that person. Company. So
that's another thing. Typically, they like to come with somebody else.
With family member. Yeah.
Even when you go to the market, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They like to do in pairs for whatever.
In pairs, yes.
And it's funny because it happens to me when I go to even here. It's kind of lonely to go shopping by myself. So, and now with the COVID, they don't like to bring 2 people, to the market. So.
Yeah, the mayor of Bogota was caught going with her significant mother, and it was prohibited.
Yeah, exactly.
She got a fine.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So before we close the show here, Gerardo, what are your final words of wisdom what would you say, in other words, to the CEO of a medical device company who is just starting to explore destinations for clinical research? What would you tell him or her about Latin America?
Well, number one, I obviously identify the type of patients that you're looking for, chronic or acute. And then second, which centers are probably the bigger cities might be best, because they might have the supplies that you need, for your therapy. Otherwise, you have to bring all the supplies. So it's better to be in larger cities or smaller cities, but kind of at the top of the supply chain for support of, supplies. They call it sutures, or call it catheters, or call it wires. You don't have every single size available because that'll be impossible. And you can bring some of it with your kit to make sure that you don't, you're not searching for this material you're looking for. So make sure that you have all the supplies in place. I mean, make sure meaning triple, quadruple check.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's where your CRO is so crucial. When you get there, you just want to execute.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be searching for all Bogota for certain size of that you might not even have, and then all your crew have to wait until you get that material from Miami, or so on and so forth. And it had happened to me.
Okay.
So I'm
Sure.
telling you.
Mm.
So, but obviously, in every study, I learned. So I got better at it, better and better every time. So it's crucial to have a great organization supporting you locally, because we don't know the market local. We don't know the idiosyncrasies that are needed to execute a spotless, well-run clinical study, which is the value of a startup. That's what we, here for. Not only to create technology, is to show that our technology is safe and effective. That's our job. And with that, you have to have proper documentation. Otherwise, whatever you do has no value. And I've done this enough times.
Yeah, well said. Excellent. All right, Gerardo, how can listeners get in contact with you?
Julio, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I consult for many companies, over 50 companies in different fields. And you can reach out to Julio, and he can put you in touch with me in any which way you feel is appropriate, from the business, technical, clinical, and so on and so forth, or regulatory for that matter.
Okay, very good. Gerardo, thank you so much. Thank you for our friendship. I have enjoyed meeting you or knowing you for years already. And I also thank you for accepting my invitation to be on this podcast. I think you are quite a fascinating individual from the personal and professional experience that you have doing business in Latin America, specifically with clinical research and the development of medical technologies. So I'm sure listeners are getting a lot of value from this conversation. So thanks and have a great day.
Thank you, Julio. Thank you so much for the great service that you provide to all of us.
Awesome. I'm glad that you think so. And thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot to me. Bye.
All the best, Julio. Ciao.
Thank you.